Please welcome Peter Andre.
Singer, songwriter, author, and TV presenter.
A lot of people don't know this, but I toured with Madonna. I felt quite humble inside, but I probably became a bit arrogant. I always say, oh, you know what, I've had 10 top 5 hits and 3 number ones. And I said, the fact that no one remembers any of them is irrelevant because they only ever remember Mysterious Girl. It's going to come crashing down. And when it did, when I kind of went back home one day and went, I don't have anything, checked myself into a psychiatric ward because I didn't know what was wrong.
When you lose someone you love, your brother.
I've never actually said this before. So when he passed away, it's so weird. It's been such a long time, but...
Hi, I'm Abby Clancy and welcome to Exhibit A. My guest today has captured the nation's hearts for over 3 decades. From chart-topping hits, unforgettable TV moments and a life lived in the public eye, he has remained one of Britain's most beloved stars. From music to family life and everything in between, we're thrilled to have him here to share his incredible journey. Please welcome Peter Andre. Who is Peter Andre?
I'm basically a British-born Australian Greek guy. I'm basically multicultural. Mm-hmm. Born in the UK, grew up in Australia. My mum and dad are from Cyprus. So yeah, that's me really. And a happy person.
Happy person. Yeah. You come across as a happy person. You're always seen as very positive.
Yeah, I think as a kid I was like that. And then you get thrust into this crazy world and you do change. You know, I became arrogant for a while. I know that because when I look back, I'm like, you know, even in my 20s when I'd wear my sunglasses in the room and think I was super cool and had the curtains that were literally, they didn't fall naturally. I just tried to make them look like they fell naturally.
Yeah.
But they were
3 hours in the mirror doing
They
it.
were stuck because my hair's really curly.
Oh, really?
Straighten it. Yeah, I had to straighten it. When it's long, it's just ringlets. So I used to straighten it, chemically straighten back then because they didn't have...
It looks nice, curly. I love curly hair.
I know, but you see, this is the thing. When I moved to Australia when I was 6, we moved to a place called the Gold Coast. At the time, there was in our school, there was no ethnics at all. I mean, I remember looking around and everyone kind of looked like you know, blonde hair, blue eyes. They were all really like, you know, immaculate looking. And here we were, this Greek kid with curly hair, big nose, English accent. First day of school, right? I went to school and I'm the youngest in my family. So all my brothers love football. And so by default, I love football.
Yeah.
Went to school the first day. I'll never forget this. And these kids came up and went, They went, what sport do you follow? And I went, football. And they went, what, American football? And I said, no, football. And they went, what, soccer? I went, yeah. And literally they laid into me, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, they laid into me. And they said that it's a girls' sport because back then, soccer as it was known in Australia, especially where we lived, was not a sport that Aussies really played. So it was rugby, it was cricket and things like that. So I thought, oh, okay. So because of the curly hair, which was what I was picked on the most for, and the big nose, when I used to look in the mirror, I used to see what they were calling me. So for years, even to this day, and I'm 51 now, it's ridiculous. I should get over it.
I cannot believe you're 51.
I don't wear it curly. At home I do, of course. But it's just mad. I got so used to straightening it. Yeah. I've just done it ever since.
And also, if that brought negative feelings to you, you know, memories of being picked on and stuff like that.
I mean, I'm over it, but clearly I'm not. I mean, I am over it in the sense that, like, it wouldn't bother me. I kind of go, oh, we were just kids and stuff. But I think, obviously, I'm not because I still straighten it. But I think that's more habit than it is. But at home, I'm curly locks all over. I mean, that's where my daughter's got curly hair.
Yeah.
At least one of my kids has got curly hair. Yeah.
What was life like for you growing up before you were thrust into the limelight, you know, with Mysterious Girl? I actually cannot believe that's 3 decades ago.
I know. Well, let me tell you how times have changed, Abby. People used to come up to me and go, girls used to come up to me and go, I love you. Now they come up and go, my nan loves you. And I'll take that. I'm happy with that.
But my Pete gets that as well.
Does he
You
really?
know, you're my granddad's favourite footballer.
I know,
you know,
I
and
love
it's
that.
Just...
So we're just like, listen, we'll take that. We'll take it. I remember listening to the radio and it was all rock music, which I love now, but back then I didn't, because it felt like it was what they were listening to, not me.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing this song on the radio and it was Rock With You by Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah, tune.
As soon as I heard it, I was like, what is this sound?
Yeah.
You know, Quincy Jones, I mean, the
Oh,
best
he just died.
producer. He just died as well,
I
I know.
know.
So actually, most of the people that were a part of that, Rod Temperton, who wrote it, has died. Michael Jackson, who sung it, has died. Quincy Jones, who produced it, has died. But that song lives.
Forever.
It really lives forever. And it really resonated with me. And so I used to listen to it all the time. And then I saved up my money, went and bought the album Off the Wall when I was about 6 in 1979. And then I just thought, I want to do this. I felt when I'd listen to that music, it would really make me feel, I don't know if wanted is the right word, but it really made me feel accepted.
Yeah.
So I used to practice and practice and practice and enter talent competitions. And of course, sometimes they'd see you and they'd be like, before you'd even start singing, they go, you're not what we're looking for, mate. You know, and it was hard at the time, but that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because eventually I went on a talent show and got offered a recording deal live on TV. And that's how I started, which was just amazing.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And what was it like? Was it like an X Factory kind of?
Yeah, it was called New Faces, which I think they used to have in England.
Okay.
And the guy that was the judge on the show was, I'd say, equivalent to what Simon Cowell is here, although he was also a journalist.
Okay.
So when Madonna or Michael Jackson or the Royals would go to Australia, they would only let him
Cover it.
interview them.
Yeah.
And so he was like, he is still the biggest music icon in Australia. And he happened to be a judge on that show that night. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get slated. And everybody in the country is going to laugh at me. But it turned out the opposite. He saw something and he went, you're going to be a star. And could you imagine going from all that negativity to all of a sudden? So now I'm thrust.
I know, but that's what I think it's such a bizarre thing how your destiny is in one person's hands. Like I see it with Pete with the football. Like if that manager at that time doesn't like you, you've got a completely different career.
That's right.
But if that manager believes in you and they put you in the first team, your career could go, phew. You're like, your destiny's in someone else's hands.
I know. And I think that's why, in a way, I have to be so grateful to people like, his name's Molly Meldrum in Australia. I have to be so grateful to people like him, because if it wasn't for him, because you could have talent, you could have anything, but if someone doesn't believe in you and give you that chance. And so what happened was, I went from negativity to positivity, and all of a sudden I'm now touring with Madonna. So a lot of people don't know this, but I toured with Madonna.
Oh my God, how was that?
1992, the Girly Tour. That was insane. And she was lovely. And Molly was really good friends with her. And so he was like, I'm going to speak to her. And she said, yeah. So I did the stadium tour with her. I mean, I went from nothing to stadiums. It was mad.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And how old, you were like 19, 18 at the time?
I was about 20, 21.
I'm 21.
Living my best life.
But
now I'm partying. Now I'm gone from no girl wanting at all to even know me to now just, you know, it was a different life. And I mean, I can't even believe I'm the same person, you know?
Yeah.
So it probably, I felt quite humble inside, but I probably became a bit arrogant because it went from nothing to all this just madness. And then I toured with Bobby Brown, which was amazing.
Oh my God.
Not the makeup artist. I get asked that all the time when I say Bobby Brown was the best singer.
I used to love it. My brother did Two Can Play That Game for the school talent show with a leather bowler hat on and a leather waistcoat. Bobby Brown.
Great song. You know, the original of that was an R&B track.
No?
Most people know it as a house track.
Okay.
But the original version was on the Bobby's Back album, and I think it was Teddy Riley that produced. Anyway, sorry, I'm just moving on. But yeah, so here I was touring. All of a sudden, I was releasing records way before Mysterious Girl. This was,
Yeah.
and I'm touring with, at the time, East 17 were huge as well. They came to Australia and we were touring together.
Yeah.
And then Brian Harvey from that, from East 17 said to me, if you ever come to England, I'll let you open for us because we're big in England. And I said, would you do that? And he went, yeah. I was like, wow. So my dream now was I've got to get to England.
Oh my God.
Came to England completely unknown, just done stadiums in Australia.
Yeah.
Came here, walked into one of those off licenses, and on the front cover was Ryan Giggs with his shirt off, and he had this hairy chest. I remember it. And who else was it? Anyway, I remember walking in and all these girls were going like this, and I've got this Aussie accent now, and these girls going, oh my God, he's so fit, ain't he? Talking about Ryan Giggs. And I'm going, who is this guy? You know, because I knew nothing about football because of what happened over there. And they're going, oh my God, he's so fit, he's so fit. And I said, one day I'm going to be on the cover of that magazine. I didn't say that to them, of course, but I'm thinking one day. So I'd go and do these nightclub appearances here, completely unknown, and building up some sort of name. So
cult following.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, we made these little cards going, if you like Peter Andre, then just write into this address. And I put a record company's number down.
That's genius.
And they got, I sent about 20,000 letters by the end of this little nightclub thing.
That is a genius idea.
Yeah, and then it was like, we've got to release music. And then, it's just mad. And then Mysterious Girl came 2 years after that.
Yeah.
So
you were 19 when you released your first single?
Yeah, I was 19.
And
that's right.
You released Mysterious Girl 2 years later.
So Mysterious Girl, I would have been about 24 because it's 30 years. Yeah, 24.
24.
So I had all these hits. I had songs like Give Me a Little Sign, Funky Junkie, which never got released in the UK. Flavour was later. You remember Flavour?
Yes.
Oh, you're a legend.
I am a Peter Andre fan. I was showing my son your Mysterious Girl video last night when I was in bed, and he's 5, but he's like a proper boy, and he wants like, you know, I know he's going to have all the chicks after him one day. He's that boy. And I could see his mind going, oh, he looks so cool. Yeah, I
love that.
I know he was thinking like, I want to have a 6-pack like that one day.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the things, because of being picked on at school, I was like, right, I've got to find something that's for me. And I would go and I would just do sit-ups day after day. I mean, it was like crazy. I was just obsessed with sit-ups. And then it became sort of a signature thing, you know?
Yeah. How do you feel about Mysterious Girl now? Did you expect it to have such lasting appeal? It's been 30 years.
No. It's really funny, right? Because I go on stage now and people say, this is how I break the ice. I always say, oh, you know what? I've had 10 top 5 hits and 3 number ones. And I said, the fact that no one remembers any of them is irrelevant because they only ever remember Mysterious Girl. But it's quite funny and I quite like that. And so, you know, to this day, it looks like that's the only song I've ever had. But it's great because we tour and we do all that. And it's a song that just never dies.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm going to milk it. I'm going to keep going until I can't do it anymore. Why not? You know, you want to be known for something. What a great way to be known for a summer hit, you know?
Yeah. What was it like to have all this success at such a young age? You know, you were touring with Madonna, Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
Like, did that have any negative effects?
Yes, because you get a different kind of hatred. It's something different happened. Then it was like guys going, "You looking at my girl?" And it's like, no. And you know, I'm young and I'm partying and I'm not thinking straight. And then guys would, you know, want to start fights, and because Australia can be quite rough, you know, like clubs and stuff like that. So now it was a different kind of thing. Now it was like going out with security, not because I thought I was somebody good, but because I'd walk out and someone would say, "Did you look at my girl? Did you say something? Who do you think you are?" Because Australia, population-wise, is quite small. So you can only be on the cover of so many magazines for so long, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, everyone knows who you are.
Yeah, so it was a different kind of thing, but it was magic as well. You're winning awards, you're selling records, it was just mad, and you're making money. And the thing was, Dad was trying to tell me from a young age, do not just invest.
Yeah.
I'm 20 something years old. I'm not thinking of investing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of partying. I'm thinking of flying my friends overseas first class and doing things like that because you don't think straight.
And you also don't think probably at that point, you don't think it's ever going to end.
Yeah.
The hype was so heightened.
Yeah, and I think so Dad was like secretly saving me money. I didn't know that. And I was being stupid. I mean, I say stupid. I was being young.
Yeah.
And I remember one day just booking my friends on like first class flights to go. I don't know where we went. And I remember thinking, this is everything I could have ever dreamed of. And Dad would always like look at me and go, it's going to come crashing down. And when it did, when I kind of went back home one day and went, I don't have anything. Dad's like, good. You're going to learn a lesson from this. And even though he'd saved me all that money, he didn't tell me for ages.
Yeah.
Because he wanted me to learn. He wanted me to grow up and stop being, a kid, basically. Then when I found out Dad had saved me all that money and invested it in properties for me, it was like it was the start of me investing in properties. And that's what I've done ever since.
Yeah. I read that you had a nervous breakdown at the age of 25.
Yeah.
And was in psychiatric units and taking medication. Can you talk me through those times?
Yes, I was about 20, I don't know if it was 25, 26, something around that time, 1998, 99, somewhere around that time. I'm touring now, the world. I'm working with, at the time, right now we've got superstars that are, I don't know, you could name them all now. But back then, the superstars were in hip hop or in rap. You had Coolio, Warren G. Do you remember all these guys?
Love them.
Montel Jordan in music.
Yeah.
And I was working with all of them. The Fugees, Brian McKnight, who was one of my favorite singers. And I'm working with everyone I could have dreamed of. Not Michael Jackson. I never got to work with Michael Jackson. But all these other people that I dreamed of working with, I'm now in the studios working with. And life's fantastic. But something doesn't feel right. I can't figure it out. I'm feeling kind of just I just find my breathing's different. I'm not feeling right. And I kept just finishing studio sessions, not feeling right. So I rang Claire, my manager, who's been my manager for over 30 years now. And I said to her, I need a break. I need to go back home and I need to be with mum and dad, my brothers and my sister. She said, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I've just been going since I was 16. I need a break. I'm now 27 or something, or 26.
Which is still so young.
So young, but it was such an intense 10 years. I mean, it was crazy, right? And she goes, okay, how long do you want off? I said, about 3 months. She said, okay, I'm just saying, like, have a break. She had no idea something was wrong. But she said, don't leave it too long, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Anyway, so then I went back home. I was there. Something wasn't right. I was getting this thing, which I now know is brain fog. And I was freaking out, just feeling really tense and anxious, couldn't understand. And then one night it just happened. From nowhere, I just broke down into this, literally felt like, imagine a Lego block, the most complicated Lego block just smashed all over the floor. I remember curling up in a corner. I was shaking. I was crying. I mean, this had never happened to me before. I didn't know what it was. And to this day, I'm still trying to figure out what it was. I think it was to do with...
And why it happened when it did?
I think it would have been all the stuff that had happened. So maybe the bullying as a kid, but then when I got older, there was a couple of incidences in nightclubs in Sydney where I'd had knives pulled on me. And I think maybe it just all came crashing down.
All got too much.
Yeah. And all of that sort of, I put this bravado on that I was cool, but actually inside I wasn't. And back then you couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
So I went and saw a doctor and they were asking me all sorts of random questions like, were you were you beat up as a child by your parents? I'm like, no. And they're asking me all these kind of things. And anyway, I came up with this plan that I'm going to go to New York. In New York at the time, I thought no one cares if you're known or not. I'm going to go and find myself a doctor there where no one really knows you and just work on this. So I said to mum and dad, because I couldn't tell them what was wrong.
You couldn't tell your mum and dad you were feeling this way?
No,
Why not?
I couldn't. My mum and dad were very strict Jehovah's Witnesses. Right, my whole family was. So trying to explain to them something like this, which never fit into what we learned as kids and growing up in this religion, it was like, it was a taboo subject. So I said, Mum and Dad, I've got this great thing. I've got to go to New York. They want me to record my new album.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I just wanted to get out there. So I paid myself to go. I went, flew out there, went and walked around, asked people who good psychiatrists were. You know, you had to go through yellow pages back then.
Yeah, there was no Google then.
No Google. And and then I eventually went in to see someone and they said, oh, I don't know what's wrong. I mean, it was still a taboo subject. Checked myself into a psychiatric ward because I didn't know what was wrong. Spent 2 weeks in there. And I mean, this psychiatric ward in New York, every type of person that you could imagine could be in a psychiatric ward, I was surrounded by. It was a rude awakening, but I had to get help. I didn't know what was wrong. Eventually, they said to me, this is not for you. You're just having a breakdown. You need to, go and see a therapist. So I saw a therapist. I was on medication. I did that for years. And I still, to this day, I'm a very happy person. I think that's what brought me back down and made me realize that, I've become who I was before I started all this. But what it did for me was it made me realize that you can't take anything for granted and it'll come and tap you on the shoulder when it feels like it and just let you know it's there.
What would you give any of our listeners who are suffering with mental health? What advice would you give them?
I would say that I wouldn't say we're in a better position now in a lot of ways with help.
Yeah.
That you can get the help you need. We're not in a better position now because of social media, because now people are getting criticized for everything.
Everything.
And so you can get bullied by someone you can't see, and that's a very different feeling.
Yeah.
And when a kid would come up to you and say, I hate you, you could stand up to them and say, well, whatever, or they'd call you things. Now when someone says it behind a computer, you can only you create an image of who they are.
Yeah.
And it becomes like this big, larger than life image. So actually it's more dangerous now. But where it is good is the help is unbelievable. You can report things anonymously. The medication now is amazing. The therapy is amazing. Yeah. So there is much better resources now. And I'd say that if you are going through it, I promise you good days come. And when they come, they're better than ever. And once you know that those days come, you know they're there to be had. And you just got to focus on knowing that a bad day's a bad day, but good days come. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does. But I think people find that quite comforting because from an outsider looking in, like you're Peter Andre, you got like the best body in the biz. Girls have fallen themselves to, fall on you. And
this is all past tense, by the way.
No, it's not. And to know that you were struggling with your identity and body issues is just mad.
Yeah.
And it just makes me worry so much about like the kids today who, that there is such a pressure with social media to have this perfect body image. You have to look a certain way. There's filters, there's this, you've got to look perfect at all times.
Yeah, and I stick up a little bit for filters, and I'll tell you why. Because back in the day when we were doing modelling shoots and because I did a campaign with Calvin Klein and stuff.
Yeah.
We did a campaign that it's a long story, but anyway, we would always Photoshop pictures because you wanted them to be perfect. I mean, if you look at those glossy magazines back in the 90s, they weren't, they had unbelievable lighting. And so I understand it to a point. The problem is now the filters are so unrealistic sometimes that then when you're seen in real life, people are like, do you know what I mean? Then it's different, right? But again, I don't blame people for wanting to feel that they need to look a certain way and whatever, but it is a bit of it is a bit of a catch-22 situation. Because the more you do it and the more attention you get from it, the more you want to do it. But actually, then you don't feel right when you're not doing it. And you're walking around and just being you.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation.
Talking about body image and striving for perfection, you've been very open about the nose job that you had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So one of the things I got picked on as a kid was my nose. And I remember, because I had a little lump there. It was proper Greek nose, I guess. And I remember at school in Australia, because everyone was really good looking, you know, they had really small noses. And so, of course, I'm going to stick out. I'm going to stand out, sorry. And I remember girls that I used to fancy so much. And they'd be like, look at his nose. I remember it all so clearly. Now, obviously, as an adult looking back, I'm thinking I should have just gone, I'd have been proud of it. Now.
Yeah.
But I couldn't wait to get to the age where I could do something about it. Now, I was 24 or 25. It was after Mysterious Girl. So Mysterious Girl, I had my original nose, so to speak. And it was after that I did it. But you'll notice if you ever see pictures of me back then, I never looked side on. I always, if someone took a picture, I always had to be front on, and I always looked down, and I did that because I hated what I saw. And every time I saw that myself in the mirror or in a picture, I could see what those kids were saying, right? And it really scarred me.
Yeah.
So I was in Los Angeles working, it was with Montel Jordan. And I remember I said to my brother, I've got to go see somebody. This is Los Angeles. It's got to be, you know, someone's got to know. And someone said, oh, there's this great guy. You should go see him. Went and saw him. I took him a picture of Robert Downey Jr. in the film. Do you remember the film Only You?
No.
So he played with Marissa Tomei, and honestly, it's a great movie if you ever get a chance.
I'll have a little watch of that.
And it was this sort of rom-com, and it was great. And Robert Downey Jr. was just this freaking handsome guy, and he'd always be side profile. And I'm like, I want my nose to look like that. So I took a picture of it, took it to this doctor.
This is what I want.
Could you make me look like Robert Downey Jr.?
What did he say? Yeah.
He said, I'm not a magician, but he said, I'll tell you what, I can make your nose much better. Now, I'm not saying that my nose looks like Robert Downey Jr., but what I will say is the minute that operation happened, I felt a sense of relief. I can't explain it. I would start being confident to be side profile. I'm doing it now. I know I felt then something amazing happened. I realized I'd been focusing on my body for so long, body image, to take the attention away from my face. This is true. So the minute this happened, from 1997, 98, I never took my shirt off again in any videos, in anything I did, in concert, because I didn't feel I needed to do that. And I know that sounds...
do you think women prefer six packs or noses though?
Yeah, I know. But don't forget, I still trained.
You should have done both.
I've still trained. I still train to this day. I still train hard, but I don't do that sort of, you know what? I said I will one day. I've got to do it one day just for fun.
Of course.
But I'm confident.
Yeah.
But I just never felt the need to do it. That's why I stopped. Because everyone was like, how could you go from doing video clips where every single video my shirt was off, and then the stuff with Montel Jordan and all that, I dressed, well, I don't know about better, but I dressed, it was
different,
more clothed. And people were like, well, you've just stopped doing that image. And that was because I now didn't care about people looking at me. That's how mad and how deep these scars can go.
If plastic surgery can kind of heal some of these psychological scars, surely that's a positive.
Yeah, so for me, I look at that situation and think, it was something I desperately needed and wanted for me, right? And so I thought that was fine. What I had to then be careful was then not to go, okay, I'm going to do it again and again and again and again. Because at that point then, and that's understandable. Some people can become an addiction.
Yeah.
For me, it was just more like, there's so many things I could change. But that was a real problem for me. I I remember in 1997, I finally got to sell out Wembley Arena.
Wow.
Right. And on the same night that I was selling Wembley Arena, Michael Jackson had sold out Wembley Stadium. And of course, he was my idol as a kid, right? So I remember saying to Claire, my manager, I actually feel like cancelling my show just to go watch his.
So funny.
Which is crazy. But I was such a fan and I wanted to see him. The next night, he'd, I think, added on an extra date. So he did Wembley Stadium the next night and I went. And I remember the Spice Girls had only just started at this point. I remember, I think Emma was there, Emma Bunton was there. And I walked past everyone and I remember looking down because of my nose. I remember this. And I remember sitting there watching Michael Jackson in a stadium being so paranoid that people were looking at me from the side.
God, that is awful.
It was horrible. And it was all stemmed from those kids.
Yeah.
From those girls saying, you know, how disgusting I looked. You know, as a kid, some people it won't scar.
Yeah.
But with me, it did. So I remember that night thinking, I can't even be around people because they're looking at my nose. Like how...
Well, it's not stupid. It's a personal thing to you. And if that's how it made you feel, that is awful. And if you can have a little bit of surgery to make you feel better about yourself,
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And it was the happiest thing that had ever happened. And I think that's why I think in the right context, I think if people need something and it really helps them, I totally get that.
Me too.
The fear is that you don't want to get addicted to it because obviously, like anything, addiction is, you know, it's hard to break that addiction. But here's the funny thing about the Michael Jackson thing. I didn't realize that Michael Jackson one of his dancers came to my Wembley Arena show and said to me, there's an ongoing joke in the Michael Jackson camp. We put his face and your body all over the dressing rooms in the stadium, including his. And I'm like, all I could think of was, does he know who I am? Like
that is amazing.
But apparently it was his face and my body. And would you believe what went through my mind at that point was all I thought was, thank God it wasn't my face and his body. This is how deep the scar was. And so I've never actually said this before, that was the moment, once I got that done, that was the moment I stopped walking around going, hey.
Yeah.
That was the moment because I realised then I didn't care about people looking at my face anymore. And so that's how deep that scar was. Yeah, mad.
Because most people, if they look at the Mysterious Girl video or any of the other videos you would before your surgery, I wouldn't have even...
No, because of the angles. That's why.
So you've had this incredible music career, toured with some of the best people, and then I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah. So, right, I was in Australia. Claire rang me. This was when I was having my break, right?
Yeah.
Claire rang me and said, oh, there's a show on TV and it's called Celebrity Boxing. Do you want to do it? I was like, what? I'd been out of...
You're like, no, not with this new nose.
No one touches this nose.
Exactly.
Funny enough, sorry, I remember saying to her, what do you mean? I'd been out of the game for 3 years at this point. She said, oh, it's called Celebrity Boxing. And I said, no, definitely not. Then she rang me and said, oh, there's this new show on TV called Big Brother. It was the first ever series. And I said, what's that about? And she goes, well, it's about people sitting in a room.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah. And I said, what do they do? And she said, talk. I went, Claire, no, definitely not. Then she rang me and said, there's a show that's come in called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And apparently it had only been on twice before.
Okay.
So this was for series 3. I'd never seen it. And I said, what's it about? And she said, it's a bit like Fear Factor or Survivor. And I was like, I'll do it. She goes, well, don't you want to see it? I said, no. Is it like facing your fears? She said, yeah. I said, I'll do it. And then she said, okay, would you want to know who's in it? She mentioned all the names and the only person I'd ever heard of was John Lydon from the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
Because I was living
That was
away.
such a good lineup.
That was a good lineup, yeah. And they said the big story is that he's in it and Jenny Bond is in it. And Jenny Bond is a royal correspondent. And John Lydon hates the royals. So this is the big story that was gonna happen. And I said, okay, well, as long as he doesn't attack me, because I didn't know, Sex Pistols, whatever. I went in to the jungle. I did it. You know, he was actually a really, really nice guy. He was actually ace. Like, I think everyone is in that situation, you know, you kind of all together.
To be honest, though, some people come out of it badly because there's nowhere to hide, is there?
Yeah, I guess.
And if you're hungry and you're tired, I think
they know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Do you know that to this day, Junior and Princess, Junior's 19 now, Princess 17, they're the only children to ever come as a result of that show.
Is that 20 years ago, that show?
Yeah, 20 years ago. 2004.
Oh.
I know. How mad is that?
God.
Did you do I'm a Celeb?
I haven't, no, I couldn't do it.
Well, I know what you mean.
I couldn't even sleep outside. Never mind eat a bug or get put in a coffin full of rats.
It's full on. And you know what? When I remember people going, oh, as if they don't plant the spiders, as if you're in the outback. You're not in the outback actually, but you're in the jungle. And Australia is not forgiving when it comes to animals and insects. These things are real. Even if they planted one snake in there, there'll be 10 other snakes that are just hanging around anyway.
No, just not. So I'm not that scared of snakes, but anything that can... Spiders and rats and that kind of thing is just an absolute no.
You know, they asked me, they did an interview with me and they said, what do you fear the most? And I said, I thought, I'm going to say snakes because if I say snakes, they're going to put me in with snakes.
Yeah.
And I'm not that scared of snakes.
Yeah, that's what I'd do.
I told them snakes. But they double bluffed me because then they went and asked all my family and friends.
And
I said I was petrified of spiders. So they let me believe that I'd what's it called? What's it when you fool someone? That I'd fooled them. So when I got in there, they made me practically live with spiders. It was the most horrible, wonderful but horrible experience of my life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And we've got to talk Strictly. We both appeared on Strictly. How did you find that?
Was that not the hardest thing you've ever done, or did you just love it?
It was for me, I found the live performance, the hardest part because I literally could not control my nerves to the point where I was going to vomit. But the learning to dance, I absolutely loved. Learning a new skill, listening to music every day, I absolutely love that. Yeah. But the live performance, some people thrive on that. No, the crowd screaming them. I just completely shut down. So I was surprised that I won it because I was, even though I won, when I look back at the performances, I'm like, I could have done that a million times better. When I'm at home in the mirror, I could have done that a million times better. So I had a bit of disappointment because I was like, why nerves holding me back? Like, it's so annoying.
Well, because that moment comes on and that song starts, that thing just before it goes in tonight, dancing. Yeah.
Horrible.
I would shake to the point where I couldn't. And Jeanette Manrara was my partner, and she'd be like, "Calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down." She used to say in Spanish, "Don't panic, ni panique, ni panique." She used to tell me all the time, and I used to say, "I can't do it." And I'd go out there, and you're thinking, if I stuff this up, the whole.
But you've come from a background of performing.
Mad, isn't it? I only felt that when it was ballroom.
Yeah,
because it's a different stance. It's all like.
It's the man leading, isn't it, essentially? So there's kind of a lot of pressure.
Salsa and all that. I mean,
I hated that.
I loved that.
I wanted to die. And I hated it.
Jeanette said, let's do some ballroom early on so you can get criticised on it and get better. And I was like, can we, because I didn't think I'd last that long. I said, can I just do all the sort of,
what's the ones that, all the Latino.
Yeah, can we do
Sambas,
all that first?
Rumba.
Big mistake because I got to I think it was the quarterfinals. Then comes the ballroom. I'm as stiff as a board. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
So what actually happened going back? So you were doing your music, touring the world. Then you had your breakdown.
Yeah. And then
stop the industry.
Yeah, I had to walk away because I just couldn't.
And at that point, you thought you had no money left.
Yeah, and then Dad eventually sort of told me, and he said, "Oh, you know," and I mean, he saved me a lot.
Yeah,
like enough to, if I really wanted to, at that point in my life, I could have retired. But what he said to me was, "You can't touch it."
Yeah.
So when I went into the jungle, I had loads of assets. What I just didn't have, I had to learn how to live quite simply.
Yeah.
Because Dad wouldn't let me do it, and I'm glad he did that. Obviously, as time went on, he handed it all back to me, but he did that.
Did
very
your dad
clever.
manage you?
No.
Just
but
helped you with the
He
finances?
just helped me because he knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And I try and do the same with Junior and Princess. I say all the time, guys, invest. I'm now my dad.
Yeah.
And they are now me. Princess is a little better with it.
Yeah.
She's actually quite good at saving. But Junior would be like, he's just thinking fun and...
Well, you see it with like all the young footballers, like a lot of them have come from very, primitive backgrounds, and then all of a sudden they've got all this money and it's just so easy to squander it because you're, impressed by the big shiny cars or the jewelry or the houses, and then...
And it's understandable.
It is.
It is. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Because like a 20-year-old are not going to go, oh, right, I'm just going to get this cheaper version when I can have that. They're just not going to do it.
But then I look at Princess and she surprises me because she says to me, I'm not spending that on that. Yeah. I want a house. I'm going to, and I'm like, okay. I was very spontaneous for a long time. I did every fancy car you can think of.
Yeah.
Every one I ever dreamed of. And then I soon realized that I just wanted to drive around the village really quiet.
Yeah.
So I've got this electric car.
Amazing.
I do love nice things, but sometimes where I'm living, I just like to be really quiet and just put my cap on and just get on with it.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Your relationships and your family life have constantly drawn media attention. How do you navigate that?
Well, first of all, I've got no one to blame but myself because I put myself in that position.
Yeah.
But I have managed to find a way to be able to just actually switch off and, go and do the school runs and go and do all that, and no one notices, and, that's great. When Junior and Princess were born, there was no social media. Nothing. We had phones, but we had Nokias. We had those ones where you had to press the button 3 times to write a
C.
Right?
We had Tetris.
Tetris.
I used Snake.
I love that, by the way. Still now mad.
So do I.
And so them being in the public eye, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was natural. I thought it was normal. And they were from birth. What's happened since then is social media's become what it has. So now, when Emily was adamant about not putting the other 2 children's faces on social media, at first I was like, oh, but, everyone wants to show their kids. Everyone wants to go, hey, look what my son was eating today. Because people naturally do that. They want to show everyone, right?
Yeah.
But then she explained to me about social media that I'd never really realised before, that, yes, I did that with Junior and Princess, but they also it was also at a time where you would only see them if there was a picture somewhere out of...
Like a paparazzi picture or something like that.
So now I didn't realise what these images on social media can be used for. It's a long conversation, but when she explained it to me, I was like, oh, right. So I understand from her point of view why she doesn't want them to be on it. But I also understand parents that do want to have them on it.
Yeah.
Because parents are parents, man. We want to be proud about showing our kids. It's not always about saying, hey, my kid's the best, but any parent would go to any event, a party or whatever, and be like, hey, this is my daughter. She, did this, or my son. So
I am that person now who shows people pictures of their kids, that boring person.
No, but it's
and the dog
great.
as
it's
well.
Normal, and it's normal. So I get it. But I also had to understand Emily's perspective.
Yeah.
And go, okay, you know what? I understand why you don't want them on. So in answer to your question about how I've dealt with it, I've had to change along the way. And I have changed a lot since Junior was a baby till now, because I also have learnt that things that I tried to instill in them as kids is what I was instilled by my parents.
What were those things?
I've been very open about this. So, for example, and I always use this example, I used to say to Junior, I remember he was about 3, and I would say to him, pink is for girls, blue is for boys, boys kiss girls and girls kiss boys. I grew up in a very religious household.
Yeah.
So that's what we were told. When Junior got to about 8 or 9, my views started to change a lot. I'm talking years ago now because he's 19. So I'm talking about, 8, 9, probably 10 years ago, something along then. Something changed. I remember sitting him down and Princess, and we were having a family discussion. I said, you know what, kids? What I said is not exactly right. I felt that at the time because I said it, and that's what I thought it was. But my mind started to change. I started to change as a parent. A lot of the things that mum and dad taught me, I respected, but now I didn't necessarily agree with all of them.
Yeah.
And so my conversations changed. And I'll say to them, I've said it for years, I don't care who you love, I don't care what you do, be respectful. Then comes the other question. Junior's going, well, were you always respectful?
Yeah.
I say, if you like, whoever you like, be respectful. And then they'd say, well, were you respectful? And I'd be like, no, son, I was an idiot. My job is to teach you not to be that idiot.
Yeah.
That's why I can teach you that, because I've been that idiot. You know what I mean? There's things I'm not proud of, and there's things that, but I
like what?
Just, when I was younger in my 20s, I didn't care. I'd party. I didn't care about, I was, one girl one night, another girl another night, and I would just party. I didn't care. I didn't think. And I didn't think how they would feel.
Yeah.
And that was wrong. But at the time, you don't think that because you're just thrown into this crazy world. All of a sudden, you're being accepted and you're like,
yeah, I'm rolling with it.
Girls are showing you attention and you're like, and I'd had girlfriends and then I'd break up with them and I'd go off with other girlfriends. And I was a bit wild, right?
Yeah.
Then that wildness turned into a bit of arrogance, and I don't like that about me. Sometimes I go, oh, man, could have handled this a bit better or handled that a bit better. And I remember years later, I can't remember how many years ago, but I remember I'd see some of those people and I'd be like, do you know what? I was a dick.
But that's good that you recognised it and apologised.
I was a dick. And so much so that then when I started to change my views on things, I was actually like, you know what? No, I don't have to. We as parents teach our kids, but when they get older, they kind of have to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
I then started to make my own decisions, and it was a really good feeling.
Yeah.
That's when I felt I calmed down. That's when I felt I became a better person and probably became the person I was before this all started.
The media are drawn to you and your family. How do you maintain that level of privacy, and how do you deal with negative press?
Negative press, probably I used to not handle it very well. I'm talking 20 odd years ago, more in the 90s.
Yeah.
If someone said anything negative, you'd be like, why? What did I do? And you dwell on it.
It's like if you get 100 positive comments, you always remember that one negative.
But my dad said the most amazing thing to me. He said, you tell me one person in this world, one, including religious icons, that are loved by everybody.
So
tell me one. You're going to say God? Because there's people that don't
believe.
There's people that don't believe. There's people that believe in other things. Are you going to say, I don't know, let's talk about someone human, Elvis Presley? Yeah. There's so many people that go, I can't believe it because he's, for me, one of the greatest of all time. But there's people that go, oh, he was rubbish.
Yeah.
Dad said to me, if everybody in the world, and he's talking about people that are in a far bigger, area than you are, what chance have you got? In other words, never try to strive to please everybody because you never will.
No.
And that was that's a lesson I've always taken, because I know that people, even if you delivered the best speech, someone's going to go, it was contrived. Or someone's going to go, oh, they were told to say that.
Yeah.
Or someone's going to go, they scripted that. You can't win. So if you know that, then you're like, well, what do I need to care what they think? I used to, but I don't now. I think that's the beauty of turning 50. I was just like,
definitely.
I can actually care less a little bit now.
I think I was obviously, when I first started going out with Peter, I was like 19. And then like thrown into the press, and all these like crazy stories would come out and negative press. And at the time I thought like the world was going to end. And now I can't, it doesn't even Maybe it is something that comes with age, or being content within yourself or within your own life.
I think it's all of that.
Yeah.
And also someone said to me, if you take a situation and you come out of that situation and go, how am I going to feel about this in a year? How's this going to affect me in a year's time?
Yeah.
And when you realize that most of them won't, okay, different if it's something like an illness or that's different.
Of course, yeah.
But, and I thought, yeah. So now I also think to avoid negativity is don't be negative.
Yeah.
So I try never to be negative because I think I don't want to attract that. If someone says something horrible, I'm like, they're probably having a bad day. Literally, that's how I think. Whereas I used to think, why are they attacking me? Why?
Yeah.
Now I'll just go, just probably having a bad day.
Talking about being attacked, you were dragged into the Wagatha Christie saga.
Yeah.
With something that Rebecca Vardy said about you. And I thought your response was very gracious, you know, talking about double standards when it comes to...
Well, it would have been double standards for me to have a go because I've said stupid things in my life.
I think everyone has.
What I didn't like about it was that it kept getting brought up and brought up and brought up. It's like, okay, you said something, so what? Like...
But she admitted that she made it up, didn't she? So...
And for me... Oh, she made that bit up. No. But for me, right? For me, I just thought it would upset you if somebody said something, I don't know, true, maybe? I don't know if that's the right way to say it. For what I'm saying is that I don't hold anything and I just it was a bit of a laugh. I was even laughing at it. And then it was a bit like, okay, come on.
But to the point where, like, you know, the double standards, like, you know, a female could attack a male, but if a man said something derogatory about certain body parts on a woman, that would be seen as completely wrong and outrageous.
The thing is for me is you know, again, everyone says stupid things, but it's the fact of you're constantly, it's like saying to somebody, I don't know, you might say a joke that's offensive, right?
And if they keep saying it, you feel like a bit of the butt of the joke, kind of.
Keep saying that joke that's offensive. I'm saying that a comedian, say for example, he gets flack for saying something offensive.
Yeah.
Then he keeps repeating it because he's like, I don't give a shit. Then it's not nice, you know? But there will always be a time when someone can pull you up on something that you've said or done. And I get that. So I was a bit like, I laughed along with everybody until...
You were like, enough now.
And then I thought, oh, come on, guys. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Because everything you would do, everything, you know, but I know that's part of the game. I know that's part of the industry. So I thought, just keep quiet. People are going to forget. And they do. They just move on to other things.
One thing I always forget to think about when you surrounding like negative press is that, you know, when our kids are becoming a certain age and they can read these things. And I think, you know, people are so quick to write these things in newspapers or in magazines without realizing the true potential, the true negative, the true damage that it can cause.
That's a good point. And I think like with Rebecca, if she said what she said and she probably 10 years later thought, I'm not that person anymore, fine. If she then started repeating it again and again and again, then that would show that person as not being very nice. The reason I wasn't that bothered about it is because it was something that was said a long time ago. It wasn't brought up necessarily by her. It was brought up in courts.
Yeah.
So I wasn't angry at her because I thought she's not repeating it. She's not saying it. Do you know what I mean? And I think we do all say stupid things and they're always there to be read and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's how we are later. It's how we grow out of it, or we kind of look back and go, yeah, okay, that was a bit dumb. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really have a problem with anyone.
Yeah.
I don't.
You know, talking about like the negative side of this industry and negative press and the scrutiny that you face or anyone in this industry faces, how would you feel if your children said, look, Dad, I want to follow in your footsteps?
I think it's very natural for kids to want to follow in one of their parents' footsteps. You know, you look at a lot of doctors, their kids want to be doctors.
Yeah.
A lot of...
Such a good point, actually.
So I understand in a way where people come from with Nepo babies, but I think, hang on a second. You tell me which line of work a parent does where at least one of their children doesn't want to follow. If your dad's a fireman, you're like, I want to be a fireman.
Yeah.
If mum's a doctor, you want to be a doctor. Theo wants to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Because his mum's a doctor. I've always said that, yes, the kids, if they want to follow it, that's fine. But they got to work their asses off.
Yeah.
You can't just turn around and go,
Peter Andre was my dad, so here I am.
They're going to be like, I don't really care. They're going to be like, so what can you do then? And that's the thing. I read somewhere, I don't know where it was, that every generation before this one, and it's not their fault, but every generation before this one used to see that prize at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And their parents would go, you want that prize? You better start climbing. Yeah, I know, but I'm tired. You're not going to get the prize, are you? Yeah, but I fell over and hurt. Well, you better keep climbing if you want it. Come back down if you want, but you're not getting that prize. The only way you're going to get it is if you get to the top. And this person said, this generation see the prize at the top of the mountain, but they don't see the mountain. They just think they can grab it. Because everything's instant, it's not their fault. So when they go for something and they don't get it, they're like, oh, it's not for me, I'll quit. So, no, you've got to work for it.
I know.
So I've said to the kids, to Junior, I said, you want to be in music, you better start writing songs. You want to be a songwriter. You don't want to just get up and sing a song.
Yeah.
Because millions and millions of people can do that. Write your songs so that at least if it doesn't work for you, you can write for other people.
Sure.
But work, get up and actually do it. And so that's the only bit of advice I give to my kids, because I think these kids are going to want to follow in either mine or their mum's or, whatever footsteps they want to follow, work.
Yeah. And how do you feel about them having a social media presence?
Yeah, I was against it for a long time. I remember Princess, I said to them they could have Instagram at 14. I know I'm so old-fashioned, but it had to be private.
Yeah.
And then I could see for a year what kind of things they were posting. And then I got over it. I'm like, dude, you're not going to just watch everything. Just let them be kids,
Yeah.
This is the new generation. When we were kids, I remember my mum and dad coming home in the late 70s, again, I can't believe I say that, watching TV, and they're going, oh, the kids are watching this screen. We need to, it's too much. And that was just TV. So
and the 4 channels.
The 4 channels. So like now, we've just got to adapt, man. It's like you can't stop them. It's just about trying to keep them safe, but they're going to do it anyway. But yeah, I was against it. I really was. And then Princess went private at public at 14, and I was not happy. I remember.
So talking about family, you're obviously a family guy.
Yes.
Family man, family is so important to you, and you lost your brother.
I said to my other brother, there's only 2 feelings in life that are unlocked at a certain time in your life. You never experience it until you experience it. One is mourning, like to lose somebody. I never knew what that feeling was.
No.
The other one is the birth of a child.
Yeah.
You can't explain that feeling to anyone.
Pete's got a third one that he had to,
What's his third one?
like a goal in a football match, which he compares that to childbirth.
Do you know?
And I'm like, just no.
Oh.
Which is it's a feeling I'll never experience for sure.
Well, funny enough, I went on Loose Women and they said, can we ask you to do this thing? You're going to go to Amsterdam. You're going to put on this thing that simulates the pain of birth.
Like a contraction.
But it's the only one in the world. And the reason they know it works is because they've tested it on all women that have had children.
Okay.
And they said that this is the closest thing they've ever felt to childbirth, right? The same muscles contract and everything. So I said, yes. I went. Now it goes to level 10. By level 3, I'm screaming, right? I've never felt pain like it. My respect completely changed at that moment for someone giving birth, because the pain I experienced when they went to level 10, because they decided to go all out, I thought a sledgehammer was hitting me in the stomach. I've never felt pain like that. And I'm like, I can tell you nothing compares to that pain I felt. I don't know if that simulates childbirth exactly, but hell, I am never going to give birth. I'm not doing it. No chance.
It's it is a
Yeah,
it is a pain.
I can understand that.
But I think, you know, with pain from pregnancy, it's not like grief. Like you forget the pain, the pregnancy pain. But with when you lose someone you love, your brother, you know, that's a pain that will never go away.
You know, people say
imagine
things heal over time, right? There is a bit of truth in that. But I think if I could explain it in a physical situation, if you lost a limb that you use every day, you learn to live without that limb, but life's never the same. I mean, it's the only way I could explain it, because when I lost him, it took me back to that time in 98. Like I had a horrific breakdown. Although the doctors did tell me it was probably me just mourning. It was probably a situation I'd never experienced before. And I've confused the two.
Yeah.
I just went through a horrible time. Losing my brother was something I couldn't talk about for years. People used to bring it up, and I used to just say, I just had to leave. I didn't have photos of him. Couldn't have photos of him in the house. I don't know how it affected me so much. But 11 years later, I think it's been 11 years now, I have to say, I'm fine talking about it now. I am fine talking about it. Still don't love seeing pictures. But I do realise the one thing that does change is I do just remember the fun things. I don't remember, I mean, there's certain images that will haunt me forever. And I don't.
When he was unwell?
Yeah, towards the end. But I don't wish that upon my worst enemy, because that grief is a pain I cannot explain. And we all lose our parents, right? And I've got my parents, touch wood, they will be celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary next year.
That's fab.
Dad reckons it's 3 life sentences, no parole. I reckon it's mum that's had the 3 life sentences, no parole. But I'll take what Dad says. But the fact that I know I'm going to lose them soon kills me. At my age, I should have accepted. I've been through that grief with my brother and I'm fine now. But the thought of my parents, it just absolutely breaks me. How can I not be prepared when Dad's 91 and Mum's 86? Why is that part of my childhood, that part of me hasn't grown up? Why? I don't understand. It really hurts me even talking about it, that I've got that coming. I can't understand.
How will you deal with it? And
I don't know.
What would you say to anyone who is, you know, trying to deal with grief? What did you do?
Well, I think what I did with my brother was different. And the reason why is because I didn't expect it. I think with Mum and Dad, I know.
It doesn't feel natural to lose a sibling. I think, you know, how we age, naturally you think you'd lose your parents before a sibling. So that's so traumatic.
Yes, you're right. My mum's never gotten over it.
No.
So the Parkinson's, I'm not saying she got Parkinson's from that, but she started to decline almost immediately from my brother's death.
Yeah.
And then the Parkinson's took over and it's not great right now. I think with Mum and Dad, the only thing that's going to help is I know what's coming. But with my brother, I didn't know. He had cancer and he was at the Royal Marsden and he did some of the trial drugs and they worked. I mean, I don't know if you know, but with trial drugs, they can't give you the same trial drug. They give you a drug and then if it works, that's part of a trial, but they can't keep giving you it.
No.
Yes, because it's part of a trial. So everyone has to try it to see if over a certain amount of people. He really got better. He did. And we were all talking about
life,
what we were going to do.
The future.
In 6 months, we were going to go to Cyprus. We were going to enjoy time at the house. So when he passed away, because it was literally, they said, we're talking days. Like from nothing, I was not prepared. None of us were prepared. We didn't tell him, by the way. We didn't tell him. We never told him.
Yeah.
Wow, man, it's so weird. It's been such a long time, but you think of things. It's not nice, but anyway, I'm fine with. Well, do you ever get fine with it? I don't know. I would say to people that if you have grief, just, you know, it's the one thing in life none of us can avoid. Not one. not the strongest person in the world, not the wealthiest person in the world, not, none of us can avoid it. So
some people have my dad is very matter of fact. My dad's like,
yeah,
that's life.
I wish I could be like
that.
I love your
That's
dad.
just not me. I think even Pete's more like that. He'd be like, that's what happens. People get old, people die.
I wish I could be like that.
That's not me.
No, I'm sorry. That I literally thought I had that. I was like, I'm cool with this. I wish I was. This is the bit I don't understand, right? We are taught as kids that the more we love, the better people we are, right? But the more we love, the more pain we have to go through. It's almost like they say it's better to love than.
We were talking about this. We literally said that quote on mine and Pete's podcast because I was like, I actually don't agree with that.
How can that be true? If you're detached from it, because
you wouldn't be that happy if you don't experience someone loving you and you being in love. But it does intensify the pain.
In love bit is, you're right. That is pretty spectacular. But then losing that is incredible. Yeah, I know. Do you know what? I really respect you because you've asked me something I haven't actually been asked for in years. And I was so sure, it just goes to show to me how human we all are, because I was so sure that would not bother me at all. And it's amazing what happens inside you at that moment.
Yeah.
But I respect you the way because you didn't actually, you've made me so comfortable that I can talk about things. But I didn't realize how raw things can still be. That just goes to show how you cover things sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With anyone dealing with loss or grief, what words of strength can you give them from what you've personally learned?
I would say that don't beat yourself up about feeling what you feel. It is an absolute natural thing to feel, which I didn't realize until later. Don't confuse it with anxiety and with depression. It's a feeling that we've all got, is mourning.
Yeah.
And it's a process. And I know it's hard to hear that when you're going through it. But I promise you, there comes a point where you learn to understand it.
Yeah.
And you then reflect back on all good things. You very rarely reflect on a negative thing that happened or
Yeah.
So and know you're not alone. I think if you really, really think about it, every single person in the world has somebody they've lost, whether it's their grandparent, whether it's a pet, whether it's a family. And I know it's all different and some can be harder than others. But if you know that everyone goes through it, then know it's a natural part of a process and it does get better. It gets better in a different way, but it definitely gets better. 100%.
Okay, so what's next for Peter Andre?
Right. So what a lot of people don't know is I actually studied acting as a kid. It wasn't music.
Yeah, that was your first love, wasn't it, acting?
Yeah, so I did acting and that's what I excelled in at school. Music, I failed.
How funny is that?
How funny. And then I ended up winning this talent competition and I ran with it. But I said to my dad at 13, I'm going to make it in music in Australia. Then I'm going to go to England, make it in music in England. And then when I get to my 40s, I'm going to move into film. And Dad literally looked at me and went, right, okay, go and do your homework, whatever, like as if.
Yeah.
And it happened. I went to Australia, it happened, came to England, did Wembley Arena, sold, things went well. Got to 46, went to America, was in a short film in America playing a recovering heroin addict.
Oh, God.
And it was nominated for loads of awards at the Hollywood Film Festivals and all that. And then I did my second and third and fourth short film, all overseas, so they never got released in the UK. And then I did my first feature film, which is finally finished and is out next spring.
Wow.
And that'll be in cinemas. And I'm a lead in that, which is flipping amazing.
How was that? How does that differ to,
it's
performing on stage and singing? And
it's completely different. So on stage, you're like, and on this, it's less is more. On TV, in film. So for example, if you're presenting, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to be up.
Yeah.
But in an acting thing, the less you do, the less you show is more powerful, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
As in, it's more
refined.
Yeah. So I love it, and I'm also doing a drama at the moment, which I know where it's going. It's worldwide, a big British TV channel, which they've asked me not to mention for some reason, which I've already mentioned before, which I didn't realise. So you can find it anyway, and a worldwide like a Netflixy thing, but not Netflix. But it's on one of those big...
Oh, like a big streamer.
A big one around the world. So I'm really happy. And that's a TV drama, a murder mystery.
Oh, wow.
And listen, acting is...
So what's it like with the... Do you have your accent? Do you have the Australian accent, or do you have to do a different one?
Well, different ones are different things. So for the one I'm playing, for the one I'm doing the drama, it's a completely different accent. Sometimes I have to be very English. Sometimes I can be in my normal voice.
Yeah.
And I love it. Sometimes I try and talk a bit deeper because there's nothing like a high-pitched voice all the time going, oh, how you going, mate? No, people don't want to hear that.
I can relate to that because I'm Scouse. I was like,
it's more like, how you going, mate?
Hey, howdy.
So honestly, I love it. And obviously people will be like, what? That's the whole point. And this has been going on for years, but it's almost like it's taken forever to come out, but now it's all going to start happening, and it's the direction I want to go in. And I get to write songs I wrote a song for the film. I've written a song for this drama.
Oh my gosh.
So I've actually thought maybe that's a way to do music, because I can't compete with all these, mate, everyone's...
Would you not do a revival tour? You've seen like Steps doing it.
Yeah.
Sugar Babes.
Yeah.
Oasis.
I know.
You know.
How good is that?
I know.
How good is that? Yeah, I definitely would do something. But for me, I'm always thinking how I can like evolve.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to hear, I don't want to be 70 years old and on stage bogally. Like people are going to be like, dude, please, like, no. No.
You just said you were going to milk it till you're 80, and that's one way of doing it, getting it back
actually,
on
I did say
getting
that.
it back on stage.
I mean, unless you're Mick Jagger, who can actually still at 80, I would be doing it, but probably in a different way. I just don't know. I just think...
In the school Christmas party, like my husband does. Overtakes it to stage and gets up singing and dancing.
Oh, yeah. I'm too embarrassed. It's really weird. I'm one of those dads that doesn't get up.
Oh, Pete had to shirt off in the Christmas...
No, you see, I'm too embarrassed.
Christmas school party.
What about sports day? Does he do the run?
He did it once, but he lost, so he'd never do it again. He's still scarred for life by it.
So let me tell you why I'm not one of those dads, right? So my son, Junior, is obsessed with football. I used to take him to football, and all the dads would be on the side going, "Get in!" What's the other word they would say?
Smash him!
Smash him.
That's what I say to him.
Unlucky, right? And I'd be really quiet. One of the mums goes, "You're really quiet." And I said, "Oh, I don't. You need to get involved." I went, "Oh no, because I don't want to say the wrong thing." No, you need to get involved. So I thought, okay, idiot, right? Yes, Junior, yes. The guy goes, "Mate, he's sitting way over there. He was sitting on the side. I could have sworn the guy on the pitch was my son." And I turned around and I said, "That's why I don't do it." Yeah.
Pete, thank you so much for this amazing chat. I've loved every minute, and good luck at your movies, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. And I hope it's not another 20 years before I see you again.
I know.
That's mad.
Time flies.
And please say hi to Peter for me.
I will do.